World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%, empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design. You get access to exclusive interviews with top producing real estate professionals. Listen in as we talk about their journey in the business, best practices, and lessons learned. Hosted by Kiro Nasrallah and John Scipione.
I mean, one thing that we always say in our office is just action is better than perfection, right?
This is Light It Up with Lighthouse Residential.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up podcast. Thrilled to have with us here today a top producing agent in downtown Chicago market. He's been in the real estate business now for over 17 years and successfully closed over 2,000 transactions during his career. We have with us today Mr. Leigh Marcus.
How's it going, fellas?
Welcome. Going great. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We really appreciate your time here.
Absolutely. Great to see you.
Awesome. Well, you know, Leigh, Kiro and I always like to bring people to the platform that will certainly bring tremendous value to the viewers, whether it's, other real estate professionals. We've had a few mortgage lenders, business coaches, all ends of the spectrum, but obviously it was a very easy decision to have someone of your caliber here. So again, we do really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Oh, thanks, man. My mom would be proud. Appreciate that.
So my mom's still trying to find the podcast channel, so I'll continue to try to send her the link. But yeah, Leigh, tell us a little bit about where you stand today and what the team looks like and what your goals are for this year.
Yeah, so let's see. This will be 17th year licensed in the business. Right now, there's been a lot of changes. We've all embarked on team building and helping people, and so right now, this is last year we closed 320 transactions, which was about $225 million in sales, and I have six agents and myself.
Fantastic. So yourself plus 5 buyer's agents?
Plus 6, sorry, so 7 total.
7 total. Okay,
7.
great.
Yeah. And then we have listing managers, listing manager assistants, executive assistant, marketing manager.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. You know, one of the things that I found most interesting when, we've had conversations over the years is that your wife, Lindsay, was actually a realtor in the business before you were, right? And you were actually doing something else, and she somehow convinced you to get in?
Yeah, exactly. So I had been in sales for technology companies like IBM and other tech companies, and it was great. But once I saw 2005, 2006, what real estate was like. I mean, she sat at an open house one weekend that I got licensed. I was sitting in an open house with her. A buyer walked in, and then 3 days later, she sold them $1 million home, and I quit my job like that day, that week.
Yeah. And you said you were actually in like technology sales. Were you actually selling? Was it for IBM?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And in Chicago, there was like CDW is another one, and EMC Data Storage. Yeah. So we would, real sales with real quotas, and I was in inside sales first, right? So I was used to having a headset on for 8 hours a day. We had a minimum standards. I had, when I was at CDW, our minimum 80 calls a day, 4 hours of talk time, right? Like talking on the phone, 4 hours. And so, what I did early on was I realized, okay, if the average person makes, I think it was $80,000 to $100,000, I want to make a lot more than that. So I just increased all of those minimum standards by 50%. So my minimum was 120 calls a day and 6 hours of talk time.
That's smart.
Interesting.
Right? And what's amazing, and I think what a lot of people start to learn, is that the rewards, when you do 50% more, the rewards are not 50% more. The rewards are 400% more, 600% more, 10 times, right? It's not linear like that. It's exponential for the work that you put in.
Yeah. That's good. Can you actually give an example of how that would make sense in the real estate business if 50% action equals 400% results?
Yeah. So like if what is the average number of, let's say, open houses that an agent does on a weekend? 0?
1, 2. Sure.
1?
Right.
You know, for like one, maybe. Well, okay, so that maybe that agent would make $50,000 in a year. Well, what if he did 4 open houses a weekend? Right? So you're doing 4 open houses, like that. Those type of agents with those type of activities are starting, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, 10x
Right.
what that agent that's making 50 is doing.
Right. It's not going from 50,000 to 200,000. It's going from
Correct.
50,000 to 400,000 or 500,000.
Right. And so just starting to, and it doesn't take that much more time to do those types of things. So that would, in the real estate business, it would just be, what are the activities you're doing? How many calls are you making on a daily basis? So what do you guys think is the average right now for most agents in terms of number of contacts a day?
Probably super low.
2.
Yeah, 2, 3, right? Yeah. Well, I saw somebody at Starbucks, that counts as 1.
Right.
Right. And so, but in our business, like, the more people you talk to, if you talk to 20 a day, 30 a day, right? Like those type of results, you start to
Exponential.
They'll start to really add up.
Yeah. So it's interesting to sort of hear how your mind works. So back when you were at IBM, you started thinking, hey, if I can do 3-4 times what other people are doing, my numbers will be much larger. And then it sounds like you realize, hey, if I put in all this extra work, I'm not going to be paid substantially more. I guess there's a cap at what you can make in a business
in
like
corporate
that.
America.
In corporate America. Okay.
Yeah.
So Lindsay, sort of got the business off the ground, and then you slowly joined her.
Yeah, exactly. Like she was, rookie of the year with Keller Williams that, first year, and I saw what she was making, and it was like, yeah, if I put in the work that I put in corporate America, if I put that in real estate, which nobody, a lot of people are not doing a lot of. Well, that's what my observation was.
Sure.
That there wasn't a lot of structured work that was going on in real estate.
Yeah.
That the rewards could be much greater.
Yeah.
That's a good way to phrase it. Structured.
And we saw, like, when we started in real estate, like I saw we were, in the top 6,000 agents, top 5,000, then the top 1,000, then top 600, then then top 100, top 50, right? And last year we were, I think, top 5 in all of Chicago out of 15,000 agents, and number 1 listing agent over 350,000 price point.
Yeah, but that's not fair. You have a team. You have a team. Yeah. It's silly how that works.
Yes. So okay. So if you want to take 225 million in production divided by
7 people,
7 agents, that's $32 million per agent production.
I'm happy you brought that up. That's exactly one of the things that we talk about a lot in our office when people give us that same thing. We have 5 agents. We did 167 deals last year. It's 33 deals per person, right?
Right.
I mean, if we ever go, like, our goal for our team is to add a few more agents, but we're never going to go so wide that we end up with agents doing 2-3 deals a year. It's
Why not?
Why would we not do that?
Yeah.
Couple of reasons. I think it waters down the brand first and foremost.
Yeah.
I think it's a disservice to our client. If I want to put one of our team members in front of a client, I want to make sure that they're getting, absolute value. And I unfortunately think an agent that, is not at that level yet probably can't provide the highest level of value that we're trying to provide people with.
Right. Yeah. And if they're part of your team, right, and everything you guys provide and structure, and they're doing 2 or 3 deals, how are you really helping them?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's funny you say that because, Leigh, I remember you saying a week ago, if you can't bring value, then there's nothing that you can actually do bringing them on your team. And with what you've done in your corporate job and coming into the real estate arena, it just shows that you're natural at studying your marketplace, knowing what you need to do to adapt to go to the top, which is amazing. What are some of the things that you helped with the team to make the average production 39 million?
So yeah, I mean, number 1 is to understand that there's 3 ways, and we all learned this from Mike Ferry. There's 3 ways to get business. Number 1 is to buy it, buy business. Number 2 is to wait for it, and number 3 is to go out and find it. And what's the most profitable way?
Find it.
Out of those
Find it.
3, to find it, right? And the good news is there's not very, very people going out every day finding business, and so you don't have much competition. So that number one, understanding that being a proactive agent is the only way to do business. You don't, when you get your license, they don't hand you a list. Here's deals. Here's here you go. You're welcome to real estate. Here's all your clients.
Yeah.
We are all independent contractors. We all have to go out and find business every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think new agents, when they come on and we tell them, here's a group of people to give a call to, they're like, well, these are bad leads. Well, I don't want to give a call to them. I don't feel comfortable doing that. What are some of the things that you see it's hard to get agents to do when you're bringing them onto your team?
Yeah. So number one is understanding that they're not just leads or those are people, right? Like so taking the time to understand you're talking to somebody. They have goals. They have aspirations. They have wants. What are those? Are you just dismissing? Okay, well, this person didn't want to buy, or did you understand why? Why did they even reach out in the first place? How did they get into your system? How did you talk to them first? Why are we? You're talking to them for a reason, and so what is their motivation? What's it? Well, they're might not be moving here for a couple of months or a year. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. You'll still be in business hopefully in a year, right? And so understanding that there's different levels, different motivations, and that you're talking to a person on the other line of the side of the phone. You're not just talking to a number.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me of John Feltz, one of our agents. He had a rental lead that came in, and he doesn't discriminate whether it's rental or if it's a purchase. He shows the rental, finds out that the family of that client owned a $2 million condo. They had $3.8 million in cash, and they wanted to buy their daughter something if she couldn't find a place to live. She ended up buying a $700,000 condo within 2 showings, cash, which just goes to show that it's beyond, a contact.
Yeah.
It's actually a person who has a goal to accomplish.
What you didn't say was...
And the answer is in the numbers. So, for example, great, you're not very good at prospecting right now. So what does that mean? Well, that means that I have to talk to 150 people to get a deal. Great. Good to know. Well, how many deals? What's your goal for the year? Well, we want to do 24 deals. Wow, that's a lot of people you got to talk to, right? 24 deals times 150 people you got talk to. It's 3,600 people that you have to talk to in a year, right?
Yep.
Divided by work 48 weeks this year. Okay, that's 75 people a week. Interesting. Divided by 5 days. So you got to talk to 15 people a day in order to hit your goals.
Yeah.
How committed are you to those goals?
Yeah. How realistic is that for you?
Can you talk to 15 people a day in order to buy that house that you want to buy?
I love that.
So, Leigh, you have obviously a successful team. These are the sort of conversations you're having with the members of your team. Like, are they expected to come in and prospect?
Yeah, so it all starts with what is important to them, right? That if I were to say to you, John, and Kiro, hey, all right, time to hit the phones. Let's go call. What's in it for me? Why? And so understanding what their motivation is first. And I will be the first to say I have not done as good of a job as I could on that one point of, instead of being an authoritarian leader, being more of coming from service, coming from understanding what each person wants. I'm working on it. That's why we're having this conversation. That's where we're going.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So figuring out what their goals are first, why they're showing up every day, and then figuring out, because we've all seen it, right? Where the agent just sits down and says, "Well, I want to make $1 million," and it's why. What are you going to do with that? What kind of freedom would that give you, right? And sort of backing into it that way.
Because if someone falls short of that, then you ask them, well, is that really your priority? Or do you have any other commitments that are bigger than this? Because if that's a commitment that you want to accomplish, then there should be nothing else in that way.
And I really do believe that as leaders, our main goal is, our main job is to make what our agents want believable to them.
Yeah.
Achievable to them, right? They want to make whatever it is, $200,000. Great. Here's exactly how to do it. Here's why. Here's how, and making it believable and achievable to them.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So
and I think guiding them.
Yeah.
That's sort of like the whole MFO platform the biggest eye opener for me is just this business can be duplicatable. It can be replicatable if you connect the dots between the numbers, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's been the biggest gift for me, is just being able to share all of the wisdom Mike's given us with the agents on our team in sort of a team environment, right?
Yeah.
Instead of telling them to close the door and be that sole agent, we're all going to do it together, and we have a little mini prospecting school each morning. So that's how we've been able to implement it in our office. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. So, Leigh, you're obviously a top producer on your own, and obviously with the team and guiding everybody to hit your goals. But the one thing that's most impressive is being able to dominate a niche market or a specific, couple mile radius. How did you do that?
So, yeah, really good. The simplest answer I can give you is I bought a house there. Right? Access, location gives you access, right? And so if you expect to dominate a market that you don't live in, you're kind of playing from behind. So I studied the market that I had moved into, and I realized there was no main producing agent. There are, right? If you guys look at every single market, there mostly is an agent that's dominating. But how dominating are they? And you'll notice that there's plenty of markets where there's some good agents. The mind share is well, this is the top producing agent. But then you look, and they only do 5 deals.
Yeah.
They're not really top. They've just been there for so long. That's not hard to surmount them in that respect. So number one is living there and being a part of the community. Have you called every single neighbor on your block? Does everybody know you? Right. Start there. You guys remember, obviously, Neil Schwartz, Century 21 Masters, when he would just, go walk out of your office, turn right, knock on the first door.
Yeah.
Knock on the second.
Yeah.
That's golden.
So that's interesting. So let's just take a step back for a second. So you've been in the business 17 years. How recently did you move into your market?
I moved in 8 years ago.
Okay. And
which feels like yesterday, obviously.
And before that, you were still doing a lot of business in that area, but it just seems like the natural move. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome.
So if a new agent came up to you and said, how do I dominate a marketplace? You'd say, buy a house in that area you want to be in?
So that's, at that point, when I had moved into that neighborhood, the neighborhood I live in now, I had already been selling homes, right? I already had a track record. And so, not necessarily in the neighborhood per se that much, but so if you say a new agent, right? For a new agent, I would try and be the top agent inside your sphere.
Yeah.
Who's the top agent in your sphere? How many people do you know? How many people know you? Let's say it's 250 people. Who's the top agent inside of that?
Right.
And there's only one way to find out. You got to call them and ask.
Right.
Hey, Kiro, it's Leigh. You got a moment for a quick business call?
Sure.
Sure. Well, I was just wondering if you were buying or selling a home or knew somebody who was, do you have an agent you'd refer them to?
No, none in mind.
No? Awesome. Can I be your go-to guy?
Sure.
Awesome. Great.
That easy.
Right? So then just do that 250 times.
Right.
Or 1,000 times.
That
And then even if they say, yeah, I do have somebody. Oh, what is the chance that agent that they have in mind is going to call them twice a year or 4 times a year?
Highly unlikely.
slim to none.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if they say it's my sister and I can't, okay, fine. Maybe you be a little more picky. But at least when you're new, you become the expert. You become the top agent inside of your center of influence.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think.
How much does that cost?
Nothing.
Right.
Well, I think you said a couple interesting things there. First and foremost, the thing that comes to mind for me is if you don't live, you can't sell what you don't know, right? And it's almost like driving a BMW and trying to sell like a Mercedes for a living, right? Like it's if you don't live there and you don't believe in it yourself, how can you get out there and sell it every day?
Yep.
So I think that sort of comes to mind for me. You have to sort of be there, live there, and sort of know the restaurants and know the area and know the transportation like the back of your hand.
Yeah.
But I think, I had some other questions I wanted to talk to you about with some marketing and building a little bit of the brand, so much of what we've seen on Instagram. But
Yeah.
I think maybe the segue is just to talk about the past clients a little bit more, just because he was going into that.
So, one of the things that's impressive is being able to have raving fans. And, I remember in one of the Mike Ferry events, you were on stage and you were asked, well, why are new agents scared to call their sphere and past clients? And your response verbatim was, you're never bothering them if you're bringing value. Mm-hmm. So constantly bring value and you will not be scared to call them. Mm-hmm. What kind of value do you bring to continue having raving fans and to continue to have that kind of retention with your sphere and PC?
Right. So number one is just the fact that, like, if you're you guys have accountants, yes?
Mm-hmm. Of course. His dad.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. Have they called you a couple of times a year?
No.
To catch you up on what's going on in taxes?
No.
You have a primary care physician? Have they ever called you to catch you up on what's going on in the medical field?
No.
Right? So, but your real estate agent calls you. You see, what's nice is we're not in other professions, like, let's call it insurance or other types of things where, like, nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to talk about real estate.
Yep.
So luckily we're in an industry that you're relevant. What I don't remember what the percentage of the U.S. economy is based on real estate, but it's a lot. Mm. And so we're very relevant. People love Instagram. They love the photos of properties. So you're coming from that respect. They've seen, TV shows where agents, so you're coming from relevance there. But then also, like, catching them up on the market. But of course, if you're just talking about the market every time, that's, then you're going to lose that. But, like, what is relevant to them?
Exactly.
And part of it could just be, remember the Go Giver from Andy Andrews or any of those books of, like, you show up and you just provide value with who you are and listening.
Wow.
Yep.
That's good. Talking about Instagram, what triggered your massive action on social media?
Great question. What triggered our massive action there? So real estate is a stressful job, yes?
Yep.
And so that became an outlet for us to have fun, to enjoy, to, like, it's not as stressful when you're, like, having fun. And it's like, what a crazy thing that now you can make jokes, you can, like, just have fun with what you do, and it's an acceptable vehicle for marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was part of it too.
That's awesome. You were at one of the prospecting clinics a couple of years back with one of your team members, and it's like everybody was stressed out, and you and I remember who it was. You guys were jumping up and down, excited, going crazy. So I could see you guys doing that behind closed doors as well.
Right.
As
so have it, and it's not because we've all have our track record. We all have the chops that we've earned in terms of our success in sales, and so now you don't have to convince people of that as much anymore. They, you can see it. You go on Zillow, you can see them. Now it's who are you as a person, and does somebody want to work with you?
Yeah. So is it fair to say that you guys are a little bit more comfortable now doing a lot more on social media now that you have the track record behind you? As compared to...
Yeah, that's it. Which I think is a double-edged sword, because I think a lot of agents look and they're like, oh, look, there's Ryan Serhant. There's, you name it, that they're doing this on social, so that must be the way. But what they don't see is Ryan showing, $2,000 a month rentals for years and taking that client and, like, or his 100 hours a week, right? They don't see that part, so they just think it's the social part, and so then they're just social media low producers.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all day long. I would say it's being productive, being action oriented, being proactive. 99%.
Yep.
And the 1% is what you show on social media, because then you have a presence.
Yeah.
But it's not. You can't do it just based on social. Or I bet there's agents who can, and maybe they do, $5 million in business or 10. I don't know, in terms of dollar volume, but not, you have to have the actual proactiveness behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important too, because a lot of people, just, may not see the track record or may not know those things and just see the goofy side. But obviously it takes, very little work to look up someone's numbers these days on Zillow. So that's super important. That brings me to my next question. I have to commend you guys. It seems like, you're not just running a team, at App Properties. You've actually been able to build a brand. So talk to us a little bit more about that. Like, how have you guys been able to make, Leigh Marcus a household name? And it seems like you guys are really picking up market share and how have you been able to build that brand? Is it through social media?
So we are in the most incredible industry that, like, if you're a top attorney, okay, and you do a lot of cases and you win a lot of verdicts, where is that posted? I don't know.
That's a good point.
But we are in a business where, like, your name is on a sign that you're selling. It's the craziest thing.
Yep.
Like, and so being the top listing agent pays exponentially more than the top buyer's agent, not just because of the time, but because if you sell 100 buyers, where does that show up? But you sell 100 homes, listings, you're everywhere.
Yeah.
Are you guys in a market where there are signs also?
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah. Some are just high-rise condos, and it's a little harder, but you can still market that. So number one,
trust me, people will find a place to put their sign, right?
Right. Yeah, that's great. So just being, let's start there. That, like, remember, what is the Mike Ferry's marketing plan? Take a saleable listing, sell it, tell everybody that you took it, that you sold it, and go find more.
Yeah. That's
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it goes back to what you were saying before. I think, I hate to use the word blessed because it's so overused these days, with hashtag blessed and all this craziness, but we truly are blessed to be in a business that everybody's always talking about, right? I mean, you could be online at the grocery store and the people behind you are talking about, oh my gosh, my neighbor just sold for this, or can you believe what my daughter's paying in rent? And, first, people go wild when a for sale sign goes up on their street. We truly are blessed to be in a business that people constantly want to talk about.
But John, I don't want to be bothering anybody. I don't want to, like, call people.
Yeah, of course. I don't want to do it either, but I also want to make my fair share, right? So I do what I know.
And then you asked about value, because that's part of, like, when the service you offer, when you actually you have a lot of systems in place, you actually, like, are providing a really good service, what you're doing, like, you're not very hesitant at that point to tell people about it or talk to people, because you are talking about things, and you're coming from a very good place because you've built a high level of service. Now, if you don't have that, you haven't built that, you don't know a lot, then you're right. I can see why it is harder to talk to people. That's why you join a big team or a good team or a high producing team or a high team that's going to help, whatever, because you have that behind you.
Yeah, but even what you were saying before is I think a difficult conversation for people, just to call your database and literally say, hey, who do you go to for real estate advice? If you needed to make a real estate decision, who would you speak to? And when they say no one, or I don't have anybody in mind, which most people would say, for you to actually say the words, well, can I be that person? Or can I be your go-to resource? That's a very difficult conversation for a lot of people to have. But I think it's one of those things where, you build it into your repertoire and
I definitely can see that, especially when you're new and you don't. But as you are confident in what you're doing, like, really, if you're taking the time. So, for example, if you're a new agent, are you able to preview homes there?
Yeah.
Right. So if you make previewing homes part of your daily routine, weekly routine, and all of a sudden every single condo that's up and every single home, and you've been in it, like, you start, like, that's the capital, that's the value that you bring, is your knowledge. And you've seen it, what you're talking, like, then that's how you build your ability to talk to people is by building your confidence. And how do you build your confidence is you're not faking it. You actually know what things are selling for, and here's why that one sold for this, because you were in it and you saw that it had this view, and that's how. So I would say, if you go learn your trade, and what is the trade that we're in is talking to people, but knowledge and skill set like that. And so see as many places as you can, learn about why, talk to the agents there, why is it priced here, why, like really, really, really learn everything you possibly can. And then you're not as hesitant to call people.
Competence is confidence. That's what Mike always used to say.
My confidence equals confidence.
It's it goes back to like what we said before, buying the house in the neighborhood. Then you're actually ingrained, and you know everything that's going on, and it's. I mean, we've all been on those listing appointments where you're talking about comps, and you're like, oh shit, I don't know any of these places, right? Or you're like, I maybe don't know this neighborhood as well as I thought. Versus being on a listing appointment, you're like, all right, yeah, we actually sold this one. The one next to it, a friend of ours sold, or we actually had a multiple offer situation. We had the buyer, and it's a totally different world. And maybe the third one is a condo building that like you're very, very, very familiar with. So when you know the product and know the market like that from previews or just studying the local industry or local market, I should say, it puts you in such a better position to succeed.
But John, that seems like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and
I don't know if I want to do that.
Well, you could be a roofer in July, right? And out there swinging a hammer. I'd much rather be in my air-conditioned office. And
so that's why. What's the failure rate in real estate?
It's huge.
90%, I'll say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard 88% within 18 months. What industry has an 88% failure rate in 18 months? I don't like teachers don't, doctors don't, lawyers don't. I don't know what has an 88% failure rate in 18 months. Like, and they don't advertise that, obviously. So real estate is the absolute worst low-paying job there is. Because if you're making 25 or 30 grand, you still know you're working 60 hours probably, right? Like there's a lot better things you can do. So if you're going to do this, you might as well do really well. It's such a better place to be.
And I think that's where exposure comes into play. It's huge, right? Because if the average agent closes, 4 transactions a year, and well, let's first off start by saying half of the agents don't do anything that are licensed, and then the other half average out 4 to 5 homes a year. Who you're exposed to makes a world of a difference.
Who you're exposed to.
Absolutely. And, I think one of our standards for agents is someone with no experience, right? Why? Because when they come into the industry with no experience and you're saying, okay, your goal is going to be 3 homes a month, they're like, okay, great, that's normal. I'm going to work for 40 hours a week to do, one a week. It sounds fair, but to someone who has experience from other offices and they walk in there and then the person's like, damn, I sold 3 homes. I got a trophy this year. And that bar gets set so low. And that's why that failure rate is so high, because of lack of exposure, which is huge. Leigh, one of the things I admired about you the most is you're big on self-development, and you're never settling for the person that you were yesterday, the person that you were last year. You're always trying to level up. In San Diego, about a month ago when we were at a seminar, you gave us advice about a course, and we're super excited and happy that we did it right away. I'm just curious to know if there's any other courses, seminars, classes that you would credit part of your success to.
Tony Robbins.
Now, I'm going to get into a sensitive part. I hope you're okay with that. On stage, I remember you talking about work-life balance. Was that the impact Tony Robbins had on you?
At that point, I didn't have any kids, and my wife was in real estate, so like there was no work-life balance. We were in real estate together. There's no what balanced, everything was work. But so Tony was more about really the only thing you have to offer or your true value is the person you become. That's the only, you can't take anything else with you, right? There's nothing else you own except for the person you become. And so become that person, right? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be like? What reaction do you want to get from people? And so if you want a positive one, you have to do a lot of positive things in this world. And so Tony, that a big part of that was just, and that you create your own destiny, right? That like you can do anything you want, but it's all about who you become. And so work-life balance, right, was more about, I think Tony does talk about that, but like, I think you start to understand that, actually, probably the biggest part is once you've achieved all of your goals, more than you ever thought you could, now what? And that's a big thing for people. That's a huge part that like, more. Yeah. Well, there's more, and there's more, and there's more. Yeah, okay, and then what? And you realize that at the end of the day, who do you really have? Is your family, is your friends, is the people the relationships you have. Like where did I hear that recently? That the currency of life is your relationships. Like that is it. You can't, there's only so much money you can spend. There's only so much deals. Like there's not, yes, but it's about the relationship.
Your gravestone can't say made a lot of money. It's going to say father, husband, brother. Yeah.
And that's it. And so, and I think we can all agree, we always need to work on that. Like, I'm not speaking from a point that it's perfect. It's more like that's the work that's the work that we have to do.
I love that. Any pivotal points in your career that by implementing anything that Tony taught you that changed everything for you?
Well, so Tony and Mike Ferry, obviously, as well, but because Mike talks a lot about show up, pay attention, tell the truth, and don't be attached to the outcome. Showing up and paying attention is so big because you start to realize, you guys know, like you start to say certain things a certain way and you get a reaction from people. It's like, wow, that was negative. But next time you say it differently and all of a sudden you get the positive, right? So like pay attention to how, to everything that happens. Like you said, also what do you talk about? What do you talk about when you call people? What's relevant? What is relevant right now? Showing up, pay attention, and you always have content.
Yeah.
And then Tony, more from Tony was just about creating that like living outside the box. Like there is no box. You can have any type of. You can be a realtor that makes videos, and you can be funny, and you can be whatever silly, and you can do all this, and you can have a career. That's crazy. Yeah. There is no box.
Right.
Living a life by design, how do you want to design the future of your team and the agents within it for the future?
Same thing with clients is having value, right? So if you don't provide value, you're always going to worry about people leaving you, and they deserve to leave you, right? At that point, if you're not, it should be such a mutually beneficial relationship that you're like, great. If there's a better place for you, we wish you the best because we provide this. What we provide is top value and service, and so that's what makes it best for the team, for them.
What are some ways that you provide value to the people on your team?
Well, when you get into real estate is an island. You're on your own. Who teaches you what?
Yeah.
How do you, you're alone. It is a lonely job, a lonely place to be.
100%.
And so having that camaraderie, having a place to be, someone to go to, someone that's rooting for you, someone that can help hold you accountable to your goals of what you want, of what's important to you is, and really like at a certain point, it's more about getting time back than money. And so, and the money is great too for people, but also what in return, what are you trading for that money? And so if there's a way for teams to give people back time, that's high value.
Yeah.
I forget who said it, but he said you're trading your time for money, or you're getting your money's worth.
That was Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The infamous Bernie.
And so, and I have no idea what the divorce rate is in real estate, but I bet it's higher than normal.
Why do you say that?
Well, what's it like going to dinner with your spouse on Friday evening if you do? What's it like?
Yeah.
Hey, this house just came on. Oh my goodness, I need to see that tomorrow. Or we just saw it, and you're negotiating 3 offers, and like I know, hey, Kiro, John, I know it's 7:00 at night, but did you hear back on our counter offer yet?
Yeah.
But right? So like how if you have how understanding do our spouses have to be? Thank goodness Lindsay was in real estate first, so she knows exactly what we're doing, right? That's amazing. But I don't know. It is. That's why I really, really wish that people would not get into this so lightheartedly about let's get into it willy-nilly, because it ruins lives.
Real estate ruins lives.
We went from saying you're blessed to saying, no, I'm making a joke of it, but I totally get what you mean.
You're blessed if you see the opportunity and the upside, and you're intelligent or you're proactive about what you want it to look like and your boundaries, right? But and if you understand it, like, okay, great, first 5 to 10 years, I'm going to give probably 150%, right?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's, and if you think you're going to have work-life balance, so let's just start there. If you think you're going to have work-life balance in the first 3 years, 2-3 years of real estate,
yeah.
I mean, at some level,
You might have a lot of that balance, but you might not have a lot of commission checks either.
Commission, right? So on a team, luckily on a team, there's a way, with a team there is more balance, and there's a way to provide more of that. But still, if you're not really dedicated to 50, 60 hours of work, no matter what it is, it's very hard to get the 747 off the ground.
So Leigh, how do you and your wife put like a hard stop to work conversations? Like how do you get that balance where it's like, or do you ever find yourself going into work mode at 9 o'clock at night and you have to sort of turn it off?
Yeah, for sure.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. Now let's just say you're a single agent with a team. You're responsible for yourself, your clients, and your family. Great. But now you add an assistant, and you add another agent, and you add a buyer's agent, and you add and you're responsible for how many people now?
Yeah.
Their lives, your lives. Like, how does anyone sleep, right? Well, that's why you don't do this willy-nilly. But that's right. So yes, we definitely have those. We definitely have those times when like work dominates.
Yeah.
Right, our life. And so one of the things we put into play recently was we have 2 to 3 hour meetings once a week, just Lindsay and I, off-site, so that I can give her what she needs.
I love that.
Not at night, that is during the day, time, and that to go through, talk through everything, right? Mm-hmm. To have lunch off-site, do all that stuff, and you do that on a weekly basis, you start to pick up a lot of momentum as a couple.
But it's important to put it in the schedule and to make time for it, right? It's not just.
I used to try and do it at 4 in the afternoon, no way. 3 in the afternoon, no way. My magic was Monday at 10 a.m., Monday at 11 a.m. Just you find what works.
Yeah, and that's just solely so you guys could talk about what's going on in your personal lives, or.
Yeah, and it depends how much time, because as you start doing it, even 3 hours might not be enough to talk to a business. Well, I work with my wife, right? So I don't know if you whatever it is, but yes, you eventually get through the work time, and that's when you do have a space for personal life. And we run EOS, which I think you guys do as well, and so there's structure to meetings and all of that. But it's a constant battle for your balance.
Yeah. I know you have 2 beautiful girls. Three beautiful girls.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
If let's say one of your daughters came up to you and said, "Hey, Dad, I want to get into the real estate business," and you only had to give one piece of advice, and you couldn't give any other tidbits to them, what would that one piece of advice be?
Don't reinvent the wheel. You're not smarter than everyone else than you think. Go with what works. Success leaves clues. If you think that you could be successful by, and I would say this in a nice way, obviously. I'm happy I'm ecstatic that they would want to get into real estate, and that means I've set a example, right? I'm thrilled that they've set an example that they want to follow. That's fantastic. But like I said to you guys earlier, it's a double-edged sword, and real estate can take that from you, your life, if you're not careful about how you do it. And so what's great about being proactive, which is why we love what we do, is we decide who we talk to, who we take on as clients, all of that great stuff. You have a lot of options when you lead generate. So what the biggest thing I would get to her or to them is that it's a great opportunity for sure, right? But being very clear, I'd probably say go get 2 or 3 jobs first. Learn what the real world is like so that you see how great it is
It's true.
in real estate.
That's a good point.
True.
I'm extremely hesitant for anyone. So 2 things. Extremely hesitant for anyone to get into real estate that hasn't been in corporate environment first, although there's exceptions like Brianne Llewellyn out of Oklahoma City and other amazing agents that got into real estate first. Fine, but I think that's the exception. So have a couple of jobs first and then that. Unless you know yourself, unless you're extremely motivated and can make it happen. And the second is go try real estate on your own first.
Yeah.
And then join a team. I mean, unless you know the value already of a team and you don't take it for granted, fine, that's great, join a team. But it's such a difference having mentors like yourself and all the resources that teams bring that you take for granted if your first interaction in real estate is on a team. You don't realize how crazy it is out there.
There has to be pain for there to be some gain. That's just across the board. That makes a lot of sense.
For context.
Yeah. That's very good.
I don't know. What would you guys say if they
We're the ones asking the question. I'm just kidding. That's a really good point.
I think I mean, I don't have kids yet, but what I tell people who are considering real estate, like some people on our team, it's not a job. It's a lifestyle. Yeah. And, I never want to be that agent that says, oh, I work 24 hours a day, or, maybe I said that my first year or whatever foolish things that came out of my mouth at that time. But it's a lifestyle, right? You are living this 24 hours a day, especially if you want to, get to a high level. And you're not obviously working 24 hours a day, but like you said, there's people underneath you. You're sort of thinking about your next move, your next marketing thing, your next appointment. It's just, there's no turning off. Yeah. And I think people would need to realize that in order to be successful, how much they have to invest in it.
And so you have to work on ways to be present in the moment. Like if you're thinking about,
that's where I need help, Leigh.
Family when you're at work, or not like when you're doing something and then you're you're going to be thinking about work when you're on vacation. Mm-hmm. It just means you can't be present. And so practicing what that means, what that looks like, what type of practices do you have in place to practice being present and mindful in the moment. If you're not counterbalancing, if you're not putting that throughout your day, at a certain point, you can get away with it for a while. You can get away with it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, fine. But at a certain point, it catches up.
You know what? I know you speak with Aaron Novello often. He's a great coach of mine. One thing that he said to me recently was, he said, one of the biggest problems is that every time you open this up, right, there's money in there, right? And we are, again, I'll use the word blessed. We are in a business where every time you open this up, there's opportunities and there's more money. Mm-hmm. It's almost like knowing that you have a slot machine in the casino that's just like somehow, some way just feeding you money. And you're just sort of like, how can I get back there? And it's just, you could always open this up and find your next opportunity. And it becomes a major distraction for the rest of your life, or the other parts of your life, I should say, if you're not careful about, making time for relationships and all that. Now I'm airing my dirty laundry.
No, that's good.
Could you tell that this is an issue in my life? No, I just I don't know how to turn it off sometimes.
So I think I would venture to say it's the default.
Yeah.
There is no. The default is exactly what you're talking about. Right?
Exactly.
So I have a 2-part question as we come to this conclusion.
What would you say to your kids, Kiro?
Damn, I was trying to avoid that question.
Sorry, man.
I would say be intentional with what accomplishes what you may feel is your purpose. And if that's what it is, then great, but be intentional with it. If it's not, then it's not going to be a stepping stone to anything, because it is a lifestyle, right?
What is be intentional about your purpose?
I think that when you went over KPIs in the beginning, talking about 12 contacts, 15 contacts a day to hit the 24 goal, some people might hear that and be like, oh, I could do that. I'll do 50. Next thing you know is they go, hello, you want to sell? No. Okay, next. Hello, you want to sell? No. Next.
Okay. Yeah.
You could do the action just to say that you did it, or you could actually give it your all, knowing that there is no regrets. You could move on from it, knowing that you did everything that you could. So that way, when someone says that you do the best that you could have done, the answer is always going to be yes. Because again, you're trading your time for money.
Have you read that, the 4 agreements?
Yep.
I have not.
Number one, I think it's don't lie to yourself, or don't tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
What's the other 3, Leigh?
Always do your best. Because and what that but I don't know what my best is, or I don't but no, just always do your best, and you know what that is in the moment. Because if you were present, if you showed up the way if you're showing up and doing your best. Well, I'm not capable of doing this, and this. Fine, okay, that wasn't your best. You weren't able. But always do your best, and then you don't have regrets because you did your best.
Yeah. Whenever anybody talks about regrets, I just think about how my family came. My family were immigrants, right? I'm first generation. I used to wait up for my dad all night. He would come home at like 10 o'clock at night. So he'd bust his butt for us to be able to have a dream, to be able to fulfill. So I feel like if it wasn't doing your best, you're essentially taking that sacrifice that they made for you in vain.
Yeah.
So is that that carries through? With
of course,
what you do?
it's not only your personal wants, but it's the sacrifices of others that put you in the place that you're in today.
Yeah. I first, being first generation. So you are first generation, right?
Green card,
Can you
citizenship,
do
all that.
a quick impersonation of your father?
Hello.
And that's kind of what I was saying about getting into real estate after you've had a job, is like, you don't realize, and with your parents, like what I mean, I guess you do realize what it took to get here, to get where you are now, and you're going to go sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, you're dishonoring them, or not even honoring, what they went through. But then also looking ahead, not just like honoring what your parents did, but honoring your family, your future family, your kids, of what to provide them. What are you showing them?
Exactly. Not to take anything for granted. I had a 2-part question for you. If in 5 years, where do you want the team to be production-wise?
So, our 3-year goal is 1,100 transactions, 1,100 transactions, $675 million. That's 3 years.
Okay, so let's assume that you had the remainder of this calendar year to accomplish 1,100 transactions, 600 million in volume, and your life depended on it. How would you go about accomplishing that?
So he just he condensed your 3-year goal into
9 or 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah, no, so having an amazing sales manager that takes the values of the team, right, our core values of what we are, and understands the Mike Ferry sales system and other other benefits of other systems that they can use to, really help and impact other agents' lives is our key. That's what I would do the rest of the year.
Good.
Is focus on bringing as much absolute value to the people, not just that we're servicing our clients, but to our agents, of helping them achieve what they want to, of what they set out to achieve the rest of the year.
So,
and then success is imminent.
Success through others. I love that.
I mean, can you be amazing, like providing so much value, so much service to agents and customers and clients, and fail?
No.
And if you did, well, then you know what? You did your best. But the chance of that failing goes way down if you are bringing that much value and service to the industry and to your team members.
Leigh, I had a question written down for you, and I'm glad you sort of segued into that. Just in closing, as we wrap up our time here, one thing I think that happens in our business is a lot of times we close a transaction, and I think if you were to sort of interview that seller and say, well, what did you think of the process? They might say, well, John and Kiro did their job. They got my home sold. Most likely sold it, quickly in the time frame that they had promised for the price that they had suggested. I'm happy. I feel like a lot of your clients after the transaction, become what we call raving fans, right? Tony's taught us to call these people in business mastery, we refer to them as raving fans. They go out and tell all of their friends and family, everybody in their network, how great of experience they had with the Leigh Marcus team. Can you talk to us just a little bit more about how you've been able to sort of make the experience so great?
Yeah. So we forget what it's like to buy or sell a home, don't we? Like we just do this and do that and it sells, but you're as a client, like there's so much unknown and uncertainty. Like, what are you communicating to them? What is going to happen next? Here's what's going to happen next. Here's how we are going to approach it here. So continually letting people know what you're doing, why, what's next, what's going on, setting expectations. So the biggest thing is, that problems don't kill deals, surprises do.
I like that. Can you say that one more time?
And so problems don't kill deals, surprises do. Hey, we bought this house and it has $15,000 worth of issues. We're out of the deal. Versus, you know what? We're buying a fixer-upper. We're really excited about this place because it needs this work and this work and this work. And then the inspection reveals $15,000 worth of work. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what we were budgeting. That's actually less. We were budgeting 20. This is amazing. It's not the problems. It's a surprise.
We literally talked about that with our agents this morning. Exact same scenario. We said,
what do you mean I'm competing against 6 other offers?
We said, when the inspection report comes back and you have the conversation with them that, this is a big, scary report and the inspector's doing his job and, is afraid of getting sued, of course. He's going to list everything on there. We're just concerned with the major, major issues. That should be probably the 3rd or 4th time you've had that conversation with the client, right? Not the first.
Yeah.
Not the
It's all
first.
about managing expectations.
And so if you're paying attention, you know what's going to come up, and you're not, if you're having the same problem more than a couple of times, you're not doing your job right. Right? Does that make sense? That like the same thing keeps happening, you're not. Your job is to solve, like, why are they hiring you versus somebody else? Is that when we were day one, we were just as bad as any other agent, I would say. I mean, nobody would argue that. It's that after 2,000 deals, there's not much that can come up that we haven't seen and don't know how to handle and don't know how. There was a property that went on the market recently in our neighborhood that listed with a discount brokerage, and they said they were not accepting offers until next week, and they were just going to show it through the weekend. And then we called to schedule a showing, and they're like, oh, we already accepted an offer. Does the seller know that, like, they were saying one thing, but then one person saw it and bought it? Like, do they understand what just happened there, and that they didn't get a full look at the market? So that's part of the experience difference, right? Is setting that. That's what sellers, clients are hiring us
Awesome.
for.
All right, Leigh. Well, thank you so much, man. This has been an incredible use of everybody's 60 minutes here. We really, really do appreciate you spending so much time with us. We know you're busy. Just in closing, if somebody wanted to reach out and get in touch with you or your team, what would be the best way to reach you?
DM me on Instagram. No, just kidding. Right, LeighMarcus.com.
All right.
I have my schedule a call
Awesome.
with me there. Happy to.
All right, so they'll reach out, LeighMarcus.com, schedule a call with you if they want to reach out any further. Again, really, really appreciate your time today, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Leigh.
Of course.
Thanks, Leigh.
Great talking to you.
See you.
Awesome.